Well, if you don't know, Asa Hutchinson served as United States Representative for the 3rd District. He was head of the Drug Enforcement Agency, Deputy Secretary for Homeland Security, now looking to be Arkansas's next governor. Mr. Hutchinson, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good to be with you.
I want to get straight to immigration. Mr. Beebe has been very critical in ads of your administration when it comes to immigration. He points to this number, or these numbers, we should say, that we have verified with the Government Accountability Office. It cites the number of work site enforcement arrests from 1999 to 2004, over 2,800 in 1999, down to 159 in 2004. Also fines for employers, again, down from 499 down to only 3 in 2004. How can you tell Arkansans you're going to be tough on immigration when numbers like this came from Washington?
Of course, I didn't go to Homeland Security until 2003. It was after 9/11. Our responsibility was to prevent a terrorist attack. And so, yes, there was a concentration on doing immigration inspections of nuclear facilities of the Sears Tower. And so that was the focus. But I think really what you see is he is wanting to not talk about my plan to do something as governor of Arkansas. And I've set out a clear plan to address illegal immigration in Arkansas by training Arkansas State police officers in immigration enforcement, which he opposes. And that's a good common sense solution, that we can talk about partnerships and not just the blame game. Very concrete thing that's the right thing to do. We can do it with our state police troopers that will address this problem. And it's something that I pushed when I was at Homeland Security. It works in Florida. It works in Alabama. We've done it there through my leadership. I think we can do it in Arkansas and it'll make a difference.
Okay, I want to move to education now concerning consolidation. You say in your education plan that we cannot adopt a centralized, one-size-fits-all mentality. Instead, we need to look for common sets and flexible opportunities. Would that not send a signal, or at least the appearance, that in rural areas we're lowering the standards?
Absolutely not. It is very important that we apply common sense to the standards. We should have high standards, but we shouldn't be closing schools because of some bureaucratic rule that places them on probation that defies common sense. Pulaski Oak Grove was placed on probation because they're offering advanced placement calculus for their students rather than regular calculus. They're being penalized for high performance. And I just say that we ought to have some flexibility, common sense, an appeal process to the State Board of Education, so we're not penalizing good schools that could result in their closure and long bus rides. So I think that makes a difference in rural Arkansas, where we can have the highest quality of education. But if you do not provide some flexibility, you will close those schools, so important to their communities, and penalize kids that are doing a good job and teachers that are doing a good job.
I want to talk about Nick Wilson for just a moment. With all of the issues facing Arkansans, we've got education, jobs, surplus. Why talk about a bill that was passed 10 years ago when the prosecutor of that case said the legislation itself was not corrupt?
Oh, it's very important to talk about that, because as we make the decision for the next governor of Arkansas, you've got to look back what life was like before we had Governor Huckabee, before we had checks and balances in government. You had a political machine that dominated this state. And it's ironic that Mr. Beebe would say the prosecutors cleared. Well, the issue is not criminal wrongdoing. That's not the issue that's been raised. The issue is that Governor Huckabee saw this legislation as corrupt and saw that as something that could be abused, and he vetoed the legislation that set up that fund for Nick Wilson. He vetoed the legislation. Mr. Beebe and Mr. Wilson worked to override that veto, and they said, let's do it. And that's where he either fell asleep at the switch totally, or he acquiesced in it, and Governor Huckabee sounded the alarm, and he opposed that. And then whenever Senator Nick Wilson was convicted, there was no action for discipline in the Senate until after he was convicted. I don't think that's the standard that we should have. Checks and balances are important. The future is important.
Okay, we're going to have Mr. Beebe on to talk about that tomorrow night, but quickly, we've got about a minute left. I want to talk about jobs. I want to go over some of your plan. You want to invest in the workforce education, enhance state roads, transportation infrastructure, reform state tax structure, which would include requiring a supermajority before raising sales tax. Administrations have tried over and over to get more jobs in Arkansas, get us out of that 49th number real quickly. Do you think your plan can do that, and why?
It's a matter of leadership. and I have a record of leadership. I think through technology, in tax reform and tax relief, I can provide clear and direct leadership to accomplish that. One of the problems is the fact that we have high tax rates in Arkansas. I want to eliminate the sales tax on groceries. Next year, we can do it with a $700 million surplus, but we do need to invest $50 million of general improvement funds in higher education. I think that's a positive step forward, training the workforce, working as governor in leadership and recruiting industry, helping our small businesses that are here as well.
We're out of time. Thank you, Mr. Hutchins, for joining us.
Great to be with you.
We will be checking with you election night.